Welcome to another segment of Inclusion Unlimited. I'm Leslie Mouton. Emme Faye Rudkin went profoundly deaf at the age of 3, and she has spent her life turning a disability into an ability. Emme Faye is an internationally known role model and public speaker for the deaf and hard of hearing community. She is also the founder and executive director of Aid the Silent. She has been a 2-time Miss San Antonio pageant winner as well. Emme Faye joins me now to talk about her life, her passions, and her legacy she hopes to leave behind. Hi, Emme Faye.
Hi, friend. Thank you for having me.
I think we start by introducing your other friend who is here,
yes,
Hank.
My best friend is named Hank.
Hank
He's
is very comfy.
sleepy, but Hank is my service dog for hearing loss.
He is such a star just like you. Everybody
He is
loves
a
the two of you.
star.
It's so awesome.
Yes, when your dog's famous, that's really fun. Because we go into Barnes & Noble, and so we teach sign language on TV, and people will see us out and about, buying books or whatever, and then they start signing to Hank. Because they think he knows sign language.
Oh, that's adorable.
It's adorable, but I'm like, no, I know sign language. Hank is just there for cuteness,
And he does that very well.
Yes.
Very comfortable. Can we start
Yes.
by talking about what happened, how you lost your hearing? You said at the age of 3.
Yes, around the age of 3 is when they started to notice that I was pretty behind developmentally and also just in response. So they believe what happened, because this is after early intervention. They believe that I possibly had meningitis at some point with a high fever. Is how I possibly lost it.
So tell us what it was like as a child growing up with profound hearing loss.
Yes, so very much felt like I was in the ocean of sound, trying to keep up. I would go to school all day and be exhausted from lip reading. At this point, I didn't know sign language, and so I would reteach myself the day's lessons. Very much felt isolated, pretty lonely. I was pretty angry about being deaf. And then things started to shift as an adult, and I just was never the same. I had so much joy once I started learning about that.
Let's explore that a little bit more. What was that moment that transformed from sad and lonely to joy?
Yes, I actually went to a faith-based camp, and for the first time, I learned that I was wonderfully made with great purpose, that all of this was going to be used for good.
Well, when you talk about feeling isolated and lonely as a child, you certainly, as you said, are not as an adult. How did you end up in the pageant world?
It's a wild story. I mean, it was totally God. It was also that I had all these dreams inside of me, but I didn't know how to live them out. And so with confidence came, let's tackle some of these goals that people said I couldn't do. And Miss America organization, you had to have a platform, and you had to have some sort of nonprofit or a school program. And so Aid the Silent, the nonprofit, grew out of the Miss America competition. And pageants were very much that. I went from being extremely shy, very anxious, to all of a sudden had this incredible platform. And I got ready in about 2 months. Most goals take a year. I have been playing music since I was a young girl. I'm about 14, I started learning to play music, and the sole purpose of why I learned was that one day I could compete in talent at Miss America.
Let's talk about that for a minute, about music for the deaf community.
Mm-hmm.
How do you experience the music? And then we're going to get into, after that, how you learn to sing and everything else. But just, can you bring us through what it's like? Because I know music is very important.
Yes, the deaf community, we love music, and people don't realize that this is a huge part of our community, because they assume that because we're deaf, we can't enjoy it. But the vibrations. So with vibrations through music, different notes, pitches, frequencies, you really understand music not through my ears, but through the vibrations.
Well, how did you learn to sing, though? That couldn't have been easy. And you play 3 instruments.
Yes, I play piano, the guitar, the ukulele, and when I competed at Miss Texas, I added in a kick drum so that it would just be something different. And how it worked was I would practice for hours and learn the vibrations. So Beethoven played piano, of course, is a famous composer. One of his most famous pieces was Moonlight Sonata, and so he would have his assistant play it, and he would lay underneath the piano to feel it. because he had gone deaf.
I didn't know that.
Beethoven went deaf. And so it's just amazing that so many people with hearing loss, that's how we've learned to play. And I would just practice in the bathroom to feel the vibrations, be very back. I would sing into a corner in the wall to feel the vibrations. And my mom was very much like, we're not finding a special teacher who works with deaf kids. I'm finding the nearby music store and I'm dropping you off. And so that's what my option was this incredible piano teacher that works with me. And I would practice without my hearing aids and just learn the feeling of the different notes or chords. And I would start, practicing at 11 o'clock at night, much to my parents' just hating that. Yeah, yes. They did not love that, but I was learning to play the vibrations.
Imagine there's no heaven.
It's fantastic. How were you received by the other pageant contestants?
Yes, I think at first they kind of underestimated me.
It's kind of a nice thing sometimes, isn't
it? They were just like, oh, this deaf girl coming in, it's a great story. But then I was coming in and winning competitions, and I was placing high. Especially the second time around, I came back ready, I'm going to win this thing. I got really close at Miss Texas, but it became apparent that my journey was something a lot different than that. But yes, I think at first they were very much like, did she win because she's deaf or did she win because she's talented? And I very much so, deafness was the story that maybe caught their attention, but my talent is what kept me there.
You're exactly right. And it's fine that they use the story so they pay attention.
Yes.
But then you want them to see you, and you are amazingly talented.
Well, thanks. It was such a joy to use music because I think it surprises people, and it's wonderful to break some barriers that just because we're deaf doesn't mean that we don't love music.
Nothing that you give it all with no strings attached.
Well, speaking of breaking barriers, Christian music artist Brandon Heath,
yes.
We just interviewed him a few days ago, and he announced that he was releasing his latest album, The Ache, entirely in video, performed by ASL performers.
Yes, and I know all the performers at the small community.
Now, what was your reaction when you heard about that?
I had seen him use ASL in the past, and it is so attractive, especially to this community. People don't realize that they're actually the third largest unreached people group with the gospel, and that they're still on the outskirts of music and also that Christian music genre. So that, to me, it caught the attention of our community. And he is such a fantastic person, and it's so fun because I am friends with all the interpreters and those videos too.
So tell me about your friends. Were you so excited for them? Were they so excited?
We're just so excited. I feel like we're in a time right now where people are really recognizing our community. Sign language is so beautiful. It's so expressive, and it fits music wonderfully. So we used to throw a music festival called the Good Vibrations Music Festival, and the whole concept was that you could wear backpacks and you could see interpreters, you would see the dance floor moving, and Morgan was one of our partners in that. And so with the music aspect is so many interpreters that aren't good interpreters, they go, music, just music.
What should it be?
It needs to be showing. I mean, the piano, the drum, the guitar, like playing it out. And then when you sign it, especially worship, I mean, worshiping and sign language is truly the most beautiful thing. And so it meets both of those things of the deaf community being so unreached, the deaf community, people assuming they don't love music, and then, of course, sign language being such an expressive way to worship.
Let's talk about your nonprofit Aid the Silent, which you said you started as a platform to have a platform for the pageants,
yes.
But it really is a passion, and you have grown it tremendously.
We have grown it so much. So I started it 10 years ago, and I was 18 years old when I was competing in pageants. It was always that dream, but just went for it when I was 18, and Aid the Silent, at first I was very much just, I'm going to be the fundraiser for it, I'm going to still stay in entertainment, I'm going to, hire everybody else to run it. Well, in 2019, I took over as executive director, and we've given over $1 million of hearing aids. We bought a building since then. We have a deaf community center. And so things have just grown so much for audiology care and just the well-roundedness of a child. So we very much help deaf children and teenagers, but our community around us really is drawn to it. So even deaf adults aren't a clientele, but we've attracted them to the fact that they just need help. They need the direction of who do you contact for this or that. So we've just been growing so much, and 10 years of ministry like this is just the best feeling.
When you mentioned when you were a child how you felt isolated and alone, do you think Aid the Silent helps bridge that gap and that barrier of interaction with kids today?
Sure. There's really not a place for them all to connect. And so that's what's exciting is, we have 2-3 churches here that have deaf ministry, and that's a lot for the typical demographic of what's happening. And so you can only really meet each other there. There's no stepping stone. There's no place for them to come gather outside of that. And so we've created such a safe environment, an environment where the older deaf kids can help mentor the younger ones. So it's a full circle redemption of my own story and living out the beauty from my own ashes, the things that felt broken in mine. There was always a plan. There was always something coming. And so it's so fun to be where I am, 28 now, looking back and seeing all that had to line up just perfectly to lead to where I am now.
You know what's really fantastic is talking to Brandon. His whole thing about the ache is about his broken childhood. Aww. So it's there are so many things that we all share in common in our own world, in our own pain, in our own joy, that sometimes we don't think we do because we have differences. But we have a lot more in common.
For sure. And I think what happened in our world a lot is everybody's so hyper-focused on the differences and the tension and the division. And it's so important to look at, we have more in common than not. And so if we're able to find that unity, that common ground, especially that inclusion, is so important here. And it really changes the world when we start to think, hey, your story is this, mine is this. What if we work together and truly make a difference?
And find the common ground instead of the differences.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, Inclusion Unlimited is what we're calling the segment. What would make this world more inclusive for you and for others who are deaf?
I would say looking into the new technology that's happening, there's so much happening for deaf people in terms of AI and captioning and interpreting. And so I think people are very afraid of it. It seems expensive and it seems very daunting. Well, let the community tell you what works. And so it's really not something to be afraid of. It's not something that's too expensive. There are solutions out there that make it inclusive that won't break the bank and make a difference.
What about people who may be uncomfortable interacting with someone who is atypical, with someone who is deaf because they're just afraid they can't? What advice would you give them? How do you approach, how do you talk if you don't speak sign language?
Yes, I would say facing them. So much of communication is nonverbal, so it's a smile, it's being intentional. If it's somebody who didn't grow up like me, or they have a different communication style, using your phone to type back and forth, especially just learning your ABCs and sign language. That's the easiest thing to do because so much of sign language is built from the alphabet hand shapes. That's how the language works. So if you just learn your alphabet and you just, you can point to things and ask, what's the sign for that? You can spell things and ask how to sign that. So that's the foundation to ASL is the alphabet.
So engage is what you're saying,
yes.
And don't be afraid. Go to aidthesilent.org, please, if you want to learn more about Aid the Silent. I am, a huge fan of yours, and I'm so grateful you joined us today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, as I just said, make sure you check out her website, aidthesilent.org. She is amazing. Thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe, and share. And remember, together we are making a difference.